we're going to take a break from the show to feature a new segment that discusses an often overlooked aspect of the business. I'm speaking about creating a family-friendly environment inside the restaurant industry. With help from our friends at Family Forward NC, which is a program of the North Carolina Early Childhood Foundation, a nonprofit that works to support children and their families across the state, we're going to discuss ideas, resources, and testimonials from those that work within the company, as well as actual restaurant owners that have implemented family-friendly practices while working with Family Forward NC. Welcome back to the show, former guest, co-owner of Chef and the Farmer and Benny's Big Time, also father in the industry, our good pal, Ben Knight.
Well, also you didn't mention, and I'm sure Ben's probably tired of hearing this, but Vivian Howard's arm candy.
That's a good way of putting it.
I mean, that's what I hear you refer to, at least.
Good. A candy's a good reference point, huh?
Ben, you and Vivian have 2 children, and you are very much a family. Mm-hmm. Tell us, why was it important for you to incorporate family-friendly workplace practices at the restaurants that you co-own?
Well, families are the cornerstone of the community to begin with. And so restaurants are gathering places for families. And, for so long, the irony is that they've been a miserable place to work for people who have a lot of family obligations.
Yeah.
And, we feel like and have modeled our whole company culture after the idea that a happy team makes happy food, makes happy guests. We want our team to be happy and to feel like they're supported work for their lives outside of work. It's created a tremendous amount of goodwill with our team.
What's something in particular that you've done to implement these processes at your restaurants?
The first thing we did was we were early adopters of health insurance for our team. It was a huge priority of mine. But more than that, we wanted people to adopt the usage. A lot of restaurant groups will offer it, but not provide the support needed for their team to sign and utilize it, or provide the financing for that. So, early on, we supported 75% of the premiums for the HSA, and that allowed a lot of folks that had never had insurance to get on that. We had a woman 2 years ago who was working with us, and she was in her 40s, and this was the first job she had had. And she'd worked in restaurants off and on in other places that had insurance. And she was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer. This was the first time in her life she had health insurance. Thank God. It gave her so much hope. And unfortunately, she passed away several months after the diagnosis. But, her husband was able to not go bankrupt as a result of having the insurance. And everyone was just thankful that she could get treatment that she needed. As we move forward, that's a huge aspect that we need to keep the pressure on all of our representatives and people in the industry who have been dogging and sidestepping that for a long time.
Well, I appreciate you sharing those stories with us and giving us your time today. This is an interesting time for the food and beverage industry, but it is good to know that we're building plans and creating a stronger infrastructure for the future. And with people like yourself, your wife, putting it all together, we appreciate it.
Yeah, man. All right, thanks a lot, Ben. Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Family Forward NC is an innovative initiative of the North Carolina Early Childhood Foundation. Family Forward NC can provide your company with resources and support to help you implement practices like paid leave, flexible work and scheduling, health benefits and flexible spending accounts, child care support, and more. For more information, please visit familyforwardnc.com. Business smart, family friendly, future ready.
You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NCF&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today, we are Happy and Hale. And with the man behind that, joining us in the studio today is one Tyler Helixson.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Dude, welcome, man. It's been a long time coming.
It has been a long time, yeah. Finally made it happen.
You're a pillar of the community, mainly just because you're like 6'5", right? How tall are you?
On a good day. About 6'3", 6'3.5". Yeah.
Okay, maybe you're wearing heels or something, but yeah, a pillar mainly just because he can like hold things up for people and get like the coffee cups on the top shelf for everyone, which is super helpful.
Everyone has a purpose, so I'm glad I can serve mine, yeah.
Can't teach height.
That's right.
But really, you've been a pillar in this community in the sense that you've been a business owner, but also an alum of NC State. You're kind of Raleigh. You got a lot of Raleigh blood in you, opening up Happy and Hale, multiple locations, just kind of being around. And personally, I just see you around. You're like a guy I know because we like to get out. We like to like mix it up, go to restaurants, go to events, go to festivals. And there's Tyler right behind me, sneaking up behind me, doing whatever. But it's great.
That's also because he could see over the top of you. So.
Yeah. He's like, don't worry, I'll stand behind you, Max. You're little.
Exactly. No, listen, Raleigh, in the last, 18 years now I've been here. Grew up in Charlotte, went to high school in Charlotte, and then came to NC State. And like all of my friends, I assumed I was going to go back to Charlotte after graduating NC State, and here I am almost 20 years later.
Why didn't you go back?
Long story short, I thought I was going to graduate in 4 years. Took some summer classes in Chicago when I was there working on a television show. And I got back and my advisor said, you know what, those courses actually are not going to transfer. So you're not graduating on time. So, January of my senior year comes around. I'm not looking for jobs. And I started bartending. Buckhead Saloon was actually my first foray into downtown Raleigh, kind of 2007. Right when that was coming online and nightlife and restaurants were really starting to take off. Turns out a week after graduation in May, my mom gets my diploma in the mail and says, I asked my advisor, congratulations, you actually did graduate. So I was just floating in Raleigh in the food and beverage world.
Yeah, and you had already started bartending.
I had started bartending. I started managing.
Did you have a textbook you didn't return to the library or something?
It's still a mystery to this day.
Did your mom donate a building?
Oh, that's what it is.
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah, without my knowledge.
That's like what
the Helixson Theater in Charlotte.
Oh, is that what that is? I was never the best student, let it be known.
What?
Yeah, but I did manage to graduate from NYU, so go figure that one out.
Yeah.
But always the thing that I was somewhat good about is making sure that I knew what credit was going where. It's like I am with money. I have to know where it's going.
Yeah, actually, yeah. It's good being partners with Matt for those reasons. My high school graduating credits, I think if I can remember properly, and this is Campbell Union School District in the Bay Area, I think you needed to have 220 credits to graduate, whatever that was. I graduated with 220 credits.
There you go.
And I did it intentionally. By my sophomore year, I was kicked out of 2 different classes for my behavior. So I was way behind the 8 ball, going into junior year, which I just kind of got through. Senior year, I had to take 7 classes. Everybody else was taking 4 or 5, cutting out at lunch and whatever. Oh no, I had the early morning class all the way through to the end. And I looked at it. If I would have taken, I think you got 10 credits, 10 units for every class. I realized that I'd be over by 5 by doing 7 classes. So I found my way to weasel out. Turns out over the summer, I was working as a barista with a young lady who was 26, 27, who was going to be a new teacher at my school. So she was my coworker, and she's like, "Do you want to be my teacher's assistant?" I'm like, "Well, how many units you get for that?" She's like, 5. I'm like, that's all I need. So I did have the one class.
But you see, that's part of education. Part of learning is how you get the credit.
Yeah.
So there's a
and look at me now.
Look at you now.
Look at me now.
World famous podcaster.
Sliding in head first with 220.
Oh, yeah.
220. So, but that colors some of your past, and actually the main reason that I want to talk to you. I mean, who cares about Hale and Hardy, whatever? No, I kid, but
Hale and Hardy.
Hale and Hardy. That's the New York version.
That's the New York version.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to brain fart that at some point, but you have a champagne background. You worked for Moet and Hennessy.
I did, yeah. Coming out of, so I worked for Buckhead Saloon, downtown Raleigh. And then through that, I also started a video production company. We would go into bars and restaurants, shoot 2-minute vignettes, work with the CVB, work with Downtown Raleigh Alliance. So kind of balancing both of things. My major was mass communications.
Okay.
So came out, was doing a video production company, going into, and that's another reason, I got to really learn the service industry and all the people involved, becoming that pillar, as you say. And then so through that process, just got to know the industry and met the liquor reps and met the beer reps and just saw how much fun they were having. I said, hey, I'm kind of over this bartending gig. The video production company was kind of winding down, and I said, is there any opportunity for me? So started working with Southern Wine and Spirits.
Southern Wine and Spirits. Me too. I worked there for 3-4 years. Salesman of the Year in Los Angeles.
I was about to say, that wasn't North Carolina because you would have had to beat me. But
bring it.
And it's a different world, obviously, in North Carolina than California, right? A controlled state.
Oh, yeah.
So I was on.
And I had to do work. I actually had to make sales. You guys just kind of walked in and were like, hey, here's some freebies.
We walked in, here's a T-shirt, here's a sticker. Thanks for selling us.
Quotas, goals.
Let me buy a bottle of Dom.
Yeah, exactly. But you could have a case fall off a truck. And exactly. We had to play by the rules
1 on
here.
10, sometimes a 1 on 3 when you're desperate.
Who's counting? So my two suppliers were Moet Hennessy and Diageo. So Diageo's one of the biggest. They were going through some trouble at the time in North Carolina legally, but the Moet Hennessy team just really embraced me. Belvedere Vodka. I ended up doing a dream job competition while I was at Southern Wine and Spirits. Belvedere had a dream job competition for a global ambassador. So my video on Facebook got the most likes, so I was invited to the competition, got to know the people in New York, and kind of the rest was history. So then about 6 months later, they had a marketing position open up. North Carolina, Virginia, Mississippi, Alabama, all those control states, and then also travel, retail, and military. So I was calling on cruise lines and military bases with Moet Hennessy for 2
By the way,
years.
that is like the dream job. Like that, when I was a rep, the suppliers, which is what you're talking about, were always like, we kidded around. We're like, oh yeah, those guys, those are slipper jobs, meaning you're working from your slippers at home. You don't really got to do much, man. And then every now and then you shake hands, kiss babies, and throw a couple bottles of champagne around. That was the gig.
Someone's got to do it. And we had a fantastic champagne portfolio, as you know. And it was fantastic. It was the dream job. And when I informed my mother that I wanted to leave said dream job to pursue a career in the restaurant business, she essentially disowned me. And
she's like, I'm not buying you another building to start.
Ever, right? I know. Come on. I get one. That's all I get. Now you're going in the restaurant business. No more buildings for you.
What did I teach you?
Right. So that was my path with Moet Hennessy, and it taught me a lot really about how big brands come to life, right? So I was essentially the liaison between the sales team and the distributors with the brand teams in New York. So got to travel, got to see concepts, ultimately like Happy and Hale and Hardy, other concepts, doing very well in other parts of the country, bigger cities, and knew that at the time Raleigh really was ready for a concept like Happy and Hale to start.
Let's take a quick transition just to talk about our little sponsors real fast. Talk about Triangle Wine Company, who is a fantastic company with 5 locations. They get all the best wine, all the best beer.
Champagne.
You guys would have probably sold some Moet to Triangle Wine Company had you had that job at that time or this time. They're available all over the Triangle, wherever you go, whether you're in Southern Pines or in Cary, RTP, Northern Raleigh. Like, they're all over the place. They're fantastic. Good friends of ours. Always running new promotions. You can sit down and have a beer or a glass of wine in the shop. You can also do curbside. You can even do delivery, and all of that online. You can also add the NCFB promo code and possibly get a nice discount when you check out. So make sure you go to trianglewinecode.com for all your beverage needs.
And as a matter of fact, actually,
since you'll be listening to this on Thursday, if you're not doing anything on Saturday from 2 to 4, I will be making an in-person appearance at the Morrisville location.
Star tending.
Yeah, star tending and pouring some wines out of Argentina. Not just your typical, hearty Malbec, some all over Argentina interesting choices. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I love that.
I have to go swing by and watch Matt hustle.
Triangle Wine Company. That's Rich, correct?
That's Chapel Hill Wine Company.
Pardon me.
You're thinking
Another
of-
fine establishment.
Another
But
fine
We
establishment.
don't know who they are. What? I'm just kidding.
Rich's wife actually took my job when I left.
Oh, nice. It's so incestuous right there. Yeah.
It really is. And she's fantastic.
Well, let's transition though. Let's talk about this Happy Hale that all the kids are talking about, and because we've been to Happy Hale, I know and love Happy Hale.
Oh, yeah.
It's good for the soul. It's good for your health. But there's a lot of like new things happening at Happy Hale. So maybe just for those that don't understand what it is, let in your words describe your business.
Sure. How far back do you want to go?
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
Genesis.
So interestingly enough, one of the guests on your show and I actually started a company together, or an idea of the company together, which is Sharif from Raleigh Raw.
Yeah, one of our first. I mean, that was our first big episode, the Raleigh Raw episode. I think that had the most listens for the first year and a half, 2 years. It
Wow.
was until Ashley came on. She finally broke that record. But yes, the
So
Raleigh Raw group.
Sharif and I were living together in the Hugh downtown. And he had just come from New York. We became really good friends. He was big into the juicing scene and kind of had an idea for a bodega. So we were going to open a bodega down below the Hugh. And I ended up getting the job with Moet Hennessy. He ended up doing a few other projects on his own. And then so after I started winding down with Moet, knowing that I wanted to create something, and essentially with him, we kind of put our heads together and started working on this project. I was making juice in the morning at my house, delivering it to friends and neighbors, and then I would go work my 9 to 5 with Moet. And then we started talking, and for better or worse, and unfortunately or fortunately, we just had different ideas of what we wanted the businesses to be. And it's been incredible to watch him and his success and his growth, and obviously working with Leslie. I knew Leslie very well also. And so with Happy Hale, I really wanted to create a fast casual, healthy bowl salad. And it really started with the fact that in that time, in 2013, there was no place you could come in, get a delicious, quick, healthy lunch in downtown Raleigh that was in a fast casual format. Manhattan Cafe, I think, actually was really the only thing relatively close, and they run a great business and are still operating today, as you know.
Oh, they're great.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the genesis of how we started. Being very capital intensive is the restaurant business, not having any money myself, and still working at Moet Hennessy. We decided to...
So you opened the business while you were still employed by Moet Hennessy?
Technically,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. And so my thought was, okay, so we're going to get a Tricycle, and we're going to have a box on the back of it with a cooler, and we're going to get a street permit, and we're going to be on the corner of Fayetteville and Hargett.
Your mom's shaking her head right now.
My mom... She's shaking
Tricycle,
her head.
son?
But it's going to come full circle, I assure you. So I went up to Asheville, picked up a Tricycle, came back. We had Arrowhead do the wooden box on the back of it. Local guys, great company. And my co-founder, Matt, would pedal up to the street every day. He had his Yankee Doodle hat on, macaroni as people like to call him, give out free hugs and sell juice. And simultaneously...
And this was cold pressed juice.
This was technically not cold pressed. We were using a centrifugal juicer, but it was fresh juice made in the morning into glass bottles. And then we had a line set up. We were working out of the Solus kitchen. Niall, who has Solus and Hibernian,
of course.
One of our seed investors, longtime friend, great guy, working out of that kitchen. And we had one of his employees helping us prep all the food in the morning, and then we put up a website essentially overnight. We had a friend that did it and said, hey, we have juice, we have salads, you can order either the juice and go get it on the street corner, or I'll deliver it to you in a golf cart. And so my thought initially was, okay, people will order the night before, I will drop it off to them 10ish at their office, and then I'd go work my champagne job.
Yeah.
Easy, right? I learned very quickly that people do not order lunch the night before.
Nope.
They order it at 11:30, 11:45.
Yeah.
So very quickly I realized that I could not do both. Called my boss and said, I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice. this is what, he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing the juice and salad company. He goes, I knew it. So I was with them for 2 years. August of 2013, we launched in that format. And very quickly, fortunately, what seems to be, I didn't have any savings. I've just jumped off the edge and let's build the airplane on the way down. Like I said, my mom tried to talk me out of it very aggressively. And she, talked to all her friends. And at the end of the day, I was like, I have nothing to lose. I wasn't married. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have kids. So let's just do it. And so what seemed to be a long time, because we were nervous, is this going to work? Is it not? You just had to believe in it. A couple months later, we got an investment, an inquiry, and then an investment to open the first store, which is in City Plaza in downtown Raleigh, which opened up in June of 2014.
That's crazy, man.
It was wild. Absolutely wild.
And you said, wait, where did you park your tricycle? It was right here.
Right here.
There. I can see the corner.
Right on the corner of Fayetteville and Hargett, just outside of
Fayetteville and Hargett, yeah.
That's awesome.
And it was crazy because at that time you had Raleigh Raw coming up. You had Humdinger really doing good work, cold off the press. So in 2013, there was this juice explosion. And then we were just right there on the corner.
But you were also on the cutting edge of something. I think not only was Raleigh seeing it, but probably the whole country in this quick service, casual, but healthy. Because I think that's the thing to really hold on to here, especially as somebody that I don't really like to eat fast food and I try to eat relatively healthy. But I don't order lunch till like 12:05, I want it last minute grab and go, but still be healthy. And that really wasn't available at that time.
Yeah. It's the kind of the intersection of convenient, fast, healthy, and delicious. Right. And a lot of times people, especially in the South, where there's a fried food culture, don't think that healthy and delicious. They think they're mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
So if we can come together on those four pieces, you have something that can really grow.
What about the pushback? Because I was reading that article in the Sir Walter magazine when you and Sharif first came out, and you were coming out as a juice guy. But one of the things that Sharif said is, we're not going to apologize about our prices, because you're going to pay for those. And I'm not saying you're paying more, but to somebody who goes to Taco Bell, McDonald's, Burger King, you name it, you're paying cents on the dollar and you're full. But if you go to Happy and Hale, you're going to pay $9 for a smoothie. You're going to pay $12 for a salad, something like that, which is significant more money. Not saying it's not worth it, but what do you say to those people when you get the pushback?
Yeah, I mean, I think our prices are reasonable. We're $7 for a smoothie, anywhere between $9 and $13 probably for a bowl or salad. It's definitely not going to fill you up for $2, right? So calories per dollar. I mean, this is a huge challenge with the food system in this country and across the world. It's you can eat really healthy food. Is expensive to grow. It takes time. It's expensive to land on your door. It's perishable, so there's a lot of waste involved. But at the end of the day, you're going to pay for it now, or you're going to pay for it later, right?
Whether that's medical expenses.
Correct. And it's an investment. And listen, I'm acutely aware of the fact that a lot of people cannot afford the product, and that's something that I think about a lot. Is how do we make this more approachable, more affordable, so more people can be healthy and have access to this food. And that's a challenge that I wrestle with all the time. And
even it's pretty lousy though, is it doesn't cost more to grow vegetables than it does to raise cattle. It's just the government has set it up to where companies that raise cattle get subsidies to help burden the cost. So like it actually is. Taco Bell should be $9 to $12. McDonald's should be really expensive, but because they work in a different game and they're high volume, high dollar, and the best customer for our best tax-paying customers for our government. I know this sounds all like crazy libertarian speak.
No comment.
But we spend a lot of money, a lot of taxpayer money, to lower the price, to drive down the price of meat, so that we're constantly eating meat or meat products, whatever you're getting over there at Taco Bell. So, maybe at some point, we'll start driving the cost down of vegetables, because that's the thing we actually should be eating. I'm not vegan. I love Taco Bell. I love beef. But I also love a well-balanced diet, and I also like a well-balanced economy. And when you're putting way too much emphasis on meat, you're kind of sending the wrong message to your public about what we should be concerned with health and diet and just what we should be eating.
Yeah, and meat, and also what the meat is eating, right? Corn industry.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a lot of subsidies that are there.
Exactly. You follow the money trail. But what you're saying is absolutely true, but that's more of like a more macro issue and related to government. But what I'm really trying to get at and understand, especially you as like a really important marketing person and involved with downtown, like, so the average consumer who walks in there, I mean, you're right across from a bunch of hotels, so maybe they're not even Raleighans that come and they're visiting, or they're business professionals and they're like, oh, that place has smoothies and salads, let me go in there, and then they get the bill and they're like, so how does that translate is what I'm asking to those people who, to get them back in the door, essentially.
I would say, fortunately, we don't get a ton of pushback saying, okay, your prices are too expensive. At the end of the day, it's about providing value. And I'm not saying that you personally, I'm saying that the health food as a whole, it's expensive to produce, and it's as simple as that. And if you're obviously, at the end of the day, you have to run a business, and you have to hit, the restaurant P&L is relatively formulaic, and you need to hit certain food costs. So you price it against what you pay for it. Yeah. And it's going to be more expensive than fast food for sure. But in the long run, if you're fortunate enough to be able to afford it, you're going to feel better and you're going to hopefully live longer.
Well, and in that same market plan, that business plan, I assume that you've determined there is enough of market share of people that are willing to spend this type of money on food that makes them feel better. So you're not necessarily competing with those that are going to Taco Bell per se. You're speaking to an audience that wants this type of food, and there's enough of them to put enough wind in your sails to keep the business afloat.
Bingo.
Well, yep. Not only to keep the business afloat, but open up more of them
to grow. Exactly. And I think as consumers become more educated and people learn how to take care of their bodies better and realize the importance of what you feed yourself is also going to make you better mentally and in all aspects of your life, I think people are more open to making paying a few more dollars for lunch in order to continue to get healthier.
Yeah. I will say, feather in your cap, I remember when I first moved down here, I had to be on Fayetteville quite a bit because I would call on the Marriott and a couple of businesses down there, and the treat was I forget the name of it, you'll know it, but it's the smoothie with the almond and the cacao nibs.
The Almond Brothers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That is delicious and filling. And no, it was like lunch.
Yeah.
No, that's the way I get my daughter Charlotte to eat a healthy smoothie in the morning. Mm-hmm. Like I'm throwing, protein and spirulina and all that, and a banana and whatever. But I this is the catch. I make all this stuff with fresh fruit and all this, but I take a little bit of whipped cream in the can, and I go and put it on the top, put a straw in it, and I go, would you like a dessert smoothie? And she's like, I'll give her that dollop of whipped cream if she consumes the rest of it, because she's getting her vitamins.
Lipstick on a pig.
That's right.
If that's what it takes, you got to do what you got to do.
So let's talk about the business as it pertains now. Sure. I remember, sadly, and this is like not to talk about the negative stuff, but this is like real, and this was lousy and shitty, that right after the quarantine, right after the pandemic hit, we also had a lot of social unrest. Mm-hmm. We also had a lot of complications in our society. Just in case anyone had their head down for the last year, there's been a lot of bullshit that's happened. Mm-hmm. And in the wake of the George Floyd murder, it caused a lot of social unrest, and that led to a lot of damage, which, say what you will about the damage and the frustration, I'm almost totally fine with it, in the sense of that was a purposeful rage to communicate something to the public. But it was not fun for a business owner to see their windows be blown out completely, and your windows were destroyed for your business. And I remember going down there and I saw you sweeping, and it's heartbreaking. The aforementioned Raleigh Raw, who's here in our building, I was there that morning and putting in wood panels over the windows to barricade them for the next night. And if anybody wants to know about that, you can listen to a podcast that came out probably about a year ago with Sharif and some other gentlemen in the industry. So kind of walk us back a little bit to that moment, because I think Happy Hale perceivably, like, escaped the damage for like the first day, I want to say, and then it happened like the next day. If correct me if I'm wrong.
We got hit pretty good both nights. The Saturday, I was at the protest out here at I guess it was in front of the courthouse.
Yeah.
And then that night, they were doing a lot of construction down in City Plaza, so there's a lot of loose bricks sitting around.
Yeah.
And my co-founder was actually out there that night, and we got a few bricks attempted to be thrown in the window, but I think he was there guarding it, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
The next night is when we got pretty demolished. Someone sent me an Instagram live, Jen Verani, I don't know if you know Jen.
Yeah.
She had Instagrammed, hey, Happy Hale just got hit. So, and listen, like I said that night when WRL was there, glass can be replaced. It was a shame because it was kids coming from all over the place, not even necessarily the protesters, just kids who could throw bricks through glass and get away with it.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly unfortunate, but not near as unfortunate as what happened to George Floyd and others. And so, yeah, it was tough, but at the end of the day, we will get through that. We will get through the pandemic, but it pales in comparison to the tragic murder of George Floyd.
And at that time, you guys were probably, I don't know, were you shut down at that point?
We were getting ready to reopen that Monday, and that Sunday is when we got hit.
Yeah, because phase 2 was just starting at that moment.
Yeah.
That happened.
And downtown Raleigh was essentially shut down because all the offices are out. So middle of March to essentially end of May, we were closed, getting ready to open on June 1st, Monday morning, and Sunday night is when the damage happened. So yeah, it was surreal. It was,
and that took a lot of effect, not just that specific incident, but the quarantine definitely took a significant impact on your business in general, right?
Certainly.
As we're still walking down the dark roads, let's continue that path. I know you had a location in Greenville that no longer exists.
Correct. So pre-COVID, we had one in Raleigh, downtown Raleigh. Our second store was in Durham on 9th Street, close to Duke. Third one was in Greenville, South Carolina, and the fourth one is in North Hills.
Yeah.
And so downtown stores got hit, across the country, both from COVID and the riots in downtown markets. And so Greenville just became unsustainable. We opened in 2017. Great space right next to Lululemon. Some nice co-tenancy there.
Makes sense, yeah.
Downtown Greenville is beautiful. Have you guys been?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
We went a couple of years to the Euphoria Festival that they do down there, which was a really cool festival.
Wait a minute. I think you're thinking Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
That's where I'm talking about.
That's where you're at.
That's where
I'm the dummy. Okay. Guess what will be
Wait a
edited
minute.
out? Guess who gets to edit?
Yeah, Euphoria. They got Fall for Greenville. So we went down there. We actually signed that lease before we even opened up our second store. So there was a lot of pieces of that puzzle to Greenville that I was green when we signed the lease, running the business and learning the business.
Like what? Tell the next entrepreneur so that he or she doesn't make the same mistake.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Someone asked me on a panel about a year and a half ago what I wish I would have known pre-starting Happy Hale. And, like I said, I was a mass communications major. I learned how to talk and be social and a little bit of film on the side in college. I wish I had learned about accounting and general business. That being said, more than anything, leadership, I would say. I've got my working MBA through Happy and Hale, right? Yeah. Baptism by fire.
Yeah.
When we started Happy and Hale, I didn't know what a P&L was, how to enhance a P&L or really anything about accounting.
Did you write a business plan?
I put a tricycle on a street corner and got a golf cart and sold salads.
Right on.
And, it's one of those things where, hey, I want to eat food like this when we were starting. So, and it doesn't exist. Let's create it. And I think that's how a lot of these businesses start, right? Yeah. And so it's create something that doesn't exist. It's something that can add value to people's lives. And that was the business plan, essentially.
But I think that is the most essential thing to starting a business is you find a need and you fill that need.
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately, with the stores, for us now, we lead with hospitality. We lead with, even in a fast casual setting, how do we make connections very quickly? So I say all the time, we're not in the food business, we're in the relationship business. And if you can do that well, like we have a lot of restaurateurs in town who do that very well, you can get people coming back and back and back. So to answer your earlier question about the price point, if you're creating the value and you're creating the relationships, you can have some longevity in the business. But yeah, and then so the accounting piece from a real estate perspective, looking back now, I would make changes, and now I look at how we underwrite new leases and new locations much differently based on what I've learned. And then another piece that I wish I would have known more upfront, which you really can't do until you're leading people and learning and growing, is just leadership in general, which we've had some really good leaders come on the team. But yeah, so Greenville during COVID, it just became unsustainable. Just by happenstance, we had a former customer reach out and say, hey, I love Happy and Hale. If you're going to reopen, disregard this email, and I will come back as a loyal fan again. But do you have any interest in subleasing your space? I have a Mediterranean concept, fast casual, turnkey. And I essentially said, as heartbreaking as it is, thinking about the staff and the community who kept asking, when are you opening? At that point, we kind of had a nice way to transition the space. Yeah, and these guys are great, and they're opening in 2 weeks, and I'm going to go down for the opening.
Parsley and mint.
Bingo.
Yeah, parsley and mint.
Yep.
That's cool. So if you're out in Greenville, then check them out.
Really nice guys, good leaders. And the landlord, as we're having this conversation, we've developed a relationship over the last couple of years. They're fantastic humans who own the building. They weren't just going to give it to anybody. They were just going to sublease it to anybody. And so that's a testament to Ryan and the guys who own Parsley and Mint. They're really good guys. So we wish them nothing but success.
Well, let's talk about some positive stuff, because that was all just kind of walking down this sad road. But again, not like I'm telling anybody who doesn't already know this. 2020 was a little difficult for humanity and for business, with all of that. But now in 2021, which obviously started off with a great bang, I feel like things are starting to level out. I think we're starting to see the horizon. The dust is settling. Vaccines are going on. I got my second one tomorrow. Yeah,
nice.
Tomorrow.
Love it.
Matt, you're already all
Double vax, baby.
So now with all that said, and also with Happy Hale in general, there seems like there's a new, like a refresher happening with your business. And I just ate at Happy and Hale 2 weeks ago.
Thank you.
Loved it at the North Hills location. I loved it. I was mowing down everything. I had my Tribucha drink with it all. And Felicia texted me, my wife, and she's like, where are you at? I'm like, I'm eating at Happy and Hale. It's delicious. And she's like, oh, yeah, God, I really want that. So the next day, that's where we ate again. 2 nights in a row, or 2 days in a row.
Thank you.
By the way, do you remember that was our last meal before we went into shutdown with you, myself, and Forrest Mason? Yeah,
that's right. We went. Yeah, we sat out there and we were just thinking, what the hell is happening?
Going to go on?
The pending apocalypse, and you choose Happy and Hale.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, we had to feed our
new tagline.
Our body with health store up the vegetables.
Love it. Yeah. So COVID and 2020 was devastating for a lot of people. Lives were lost, livelihoods were lost. For us, we really took it as an opportunity to pause, reflect. A year prior, we had closed the fundraising round and brought some really talented and icons of industry, both in tech and the restaurant world, into the business. Yeah. Getting ready to scale. At the first board meeting we had, I was asked how fast we can open 100 locations. And so we're gearing up for growth, putting pieces together, getting the brand really tight for scale. And then COVID happened. So we really took that year to, A, survive, B, trying to figure out what we were going to leave behind and how we were going to evolve moving forward, how we were going to pivot. Fortunately, we were set up. To-go was already very prevalent. Our digital ordering channels were already set up. Curbside pickup we already had. So the two suburban stores, 9th Street at Duke and North Hills, were able to kind of weather the storm better than the downtown locations. Yeah. So now, 2021, we're seeing that people are ready to be out. The weather's been gorgeous lately. The vaccines are rolling out. There seems to be a general air of optimism, which is fantastic. To your point, the light at the end of the tunnel. Fortunately, and Duke is in school and they keep us really busy over on 9th Street. North Hills is, as I'm sure you saw,
packed all the time.
And those office towers are not even full yet. So the new office towers they just built there in North Hills, I'm really excited for those people to get back in. And then we have a new store opening in Durham off of 15501, kind of between Chapel Hill and Duke at the new University Hill center, which
cool.
is really neat space. O2 Fitness is right next to us, and I believe that's one of their busiest clubs, and they just opened a few months ago. Ashley Christensen, she's opening her fried chicken sandwich shop over there.
Yeah.
In last September, they had over 75 muralists from all over the country do insanely incredible murals all over the center. So people are going there now just to see the art. It's
cool.
stunning. So we're looking at a probably mid-May opening. So we got that coming. We have a North Raleigh location in the works, and we've spent the last 18 months really working on our brand and our messaging and our visual identity, which your hats are stunning, may I say.
Know.
Yeah.
They feel
looking
good too.
Yeah.
The new logo is cool. I kind of feel like Bjorn Borg wearing this hat. You know, I don't have long blonde hair or anything, but it's a nice throwback. I worked at a tennis shop for 4 years of my life, stringing rackets and selling shoes. And this takes me right back to good old Sweatkiss Tennis Shop in Mountain View, California. It's cool, man. What's the...
Love it. Yeah, so those particular hats with the rope, I just wanted to do something fun. And we'll do a couple different styles there. But with the brand, I really wanted to create something that resonated with emotionally with our consumer. And a lot of times, you know, especially working in Moet Hennessy, seeing brands like Clicquot and Moet and Dom Perignon come to life and seeing how important that visual identity is. I love marketing. I love branding. So the Starbucks of the world, the Chipotles of the world, obviously in our probably closest competitor is Sweetgreen, to see how they've come to life and created their brand. So as we're thinking about national scale, first regional and then national, how do we really make the brand come to life? And what I love about this is I wanted to do something different. So we looked at a lot of different, you know, new evolved word marks, and on your hat is our new logo and icon. And to create something that is a little on the abstract side, yet everybody sees something a little different in it, and then to be able to use that as our mark moving forward. Very exciting.
It's very exciting. So realistically, with the movement you're going, and by the way, maybe a couple of people are going to be offended by this statement, but the economy very much seems to be roaring back. I mean, there was a 60 Minutes interview that I was kind of abstractly watching with basically the head of the financial committee, who was just like professing how strong the economy is roaring back. I know in my own wine company, I mean, March was an unbelievably successful month for Winebow nationally in 22 states. So there's definitely optimistic signs there. So how large theoretically could you scale this? I mean, is 100 stores in the next 3 years viable, or what does that look like? I
think at this point we're looking at scaling all corporate owned, so I don't think we'll franchise. If we're talking franchise, maybe.
Okay.
I think 25 in the next 3 to 4 years is doable.
Okay.
But at some point there's, the hockey stick starts going up, and at some point you build the team strong enough, and you can open up several
quicker.
Exactly. You can up 10 to 12 in a year.
Once you already have the roadmap.
Correct. There will be a tipping point once you really dial in. And that's another thing about COVID. We really took the time to not only work on the brand, but really more than anything, work on the operations, the systems, get those tight. So scaling is that much easier. And also, what I'm most proud of is work on our people strategy. We have an incredible team. We really have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the people on our team, leaders, and all the way down to the entry level team members, and really focus on how do we grow them and empower them so they feel connected, they feel the ownership, and we can grow with them, and we can build leaders from within. And when they ask me how fast can you open 100 stores, what I told them is, and I think they appreciate that, we have some franchise. Some of the leaders on our team are from the franchise world, some are in the tech world, so they're used to fast scale. And I said, we cannot outgrow our people capability. We'll grow as fast as we can find the right people to run them.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I guess I'm Debbie Downer over here, like thinking about all this like negative stuff, but maybe just I'm coming from one angle. I just wrote an article for the Restaurant Guru and Raleigh magazine. It's going to come out in May, so it's a little no one's read it yet.
You're getting the preview, people. Perk up.
Yeah, but the idea was like the person, the structure of the piece is that somebody asks me a question in the restaurant industry that's not in the industry to get my feedback or get my understanding of like, why is this the way it is in the restaurant industry? And what this person had asked was, in downtown, there's so many restaurants that are still closed. And, it seems like at this point that we should be at this point where we could start opening. And why are they still closed? And why are so many open, but yet some of the big restaurants and the big names are not open? And, my response was like, for one, these restaurants were designed with a business model that relies on full capacity and full everything. You cannot run an abridged version and still pay all your bills. And say what you will about government assistance, but the PPPs and the EIDLs and all of these government assistance programs that came through, not to mention unemployment that's being heavily used right now. And there was a bump, there was a decent bump over the summer. It dwindled a little bit, but all of these assistances have kind of helped the idea of keeping closed until I guess like we're basically out of the clear, or in the clear. But another way to look at it is what I wrote is a lot of people have just left this industry. A lot of people are like, fuck this restaurant industry, not just for the simple fact that I'm scared of my own safety because I'm going to wait on 100, if not 1,000 people in a day. And that's just not conducive to pandemic living. But also, this industry is fucked up. And there's a lot of social unrest, racism, sexism, inequities with financial payment, the front of the house, supposedly being like super well paid, and the back of the house working hard for slave wages almost. And so like, I think with this break from the restaurant industry, a lot of people that were in it realized how much they didn't like their industry any longer and said, you know what? F it. I'm going on. I'm going to find another way to make my money. And a lot of people had to just by the fact that they weren't getting government assistance. Not everyone got unemployment because not everyone qualified. So a lot of people were just like, I guess I'll be a delivery driver. I guess I'll work for Uber. I guess I'll work for Amazon. I'll just do anything but go back to the restaurant industry. And now, if anyone that listens to the show who's super into food and beverage, because you're listening to this, looks at their Instagram feed right now, and you're probably following a lot of restaurants, I'd say almost 80% of them their messaging is now hiring all positions, crickets. Like seriously, please, someone help. And I saw somebody put a post up. He's a former chef in this area. He lives in Vegas now, but he's like, I liked what he said, and it's a little controversial, but fuck it. He's like, if you're still on unemployment, and like there are many jobs out there, and if you're still on unemployment, like you do realize that you're kind of part of this problem of keeping the restaurant industry from reigniting. But what does that say for the restaurant industry? That everyone's like, fuck it, I'll just stay at home, collect my check, and not do this. What do we do? How do we restart this industry?
I think it's time, really. The unemployment benefit situation, to your point, we're hiring for a new store now, and it's been challenging. And from what I'm told, that's the reason. And this is, to your point, all across the country. I think it's just time. That will expire. I think it will reignite once we feel more comfortable with the percentage of people vaccinated. I think it'll get back there. But to your point, full service restaurants, I feel so badly for them because to your point, they need 100% capacity to be able to operate. And for us, we can operate at 100% capacity because people are coming in and they're coming out.
Yeah.
Right. And then in 10 minutes. But full service got hit really hard. But yeah, it's it was a challenge to find people, frankly, pre-COVID.
Yeah, that's
right?
one of the messages I put in the article was like, let it be known we were already having these problems before this happened, and now this just made it even worse.
And the interesting thing is, though, you heard it more about back of the house, and now it's more of a front of the house issue. Like they couldn't find people for back of the house, and now it's more. There's literally nobody to work front of the house.
And I wonder, we just had an episode about tipping and sharing tips and doing all this, and if we do share tips with front of the back of the house, and we don't take the tip credit as we were discussing, then you're allowed to kind of share tips however it goes. Mm-hmm. Are we making the front of the house jobs less sexy to where people are like, why the fuck would I do this?
Right.
This used to be a gig where I could work for 4 hours and make $150. Mm-hmm. Now I'll still work 4 hours, but I'm going to make 60 or 80. Like, screw that. I'll just drive for Amazon or something, Yeah,
I think you'll see a lot of changes in the next year for sure. Just how people approach the business. And, for us, I'm really proud of our team. We have some good tenure. 45% of our company has been with us over a year. I think 20% has been over 3 years. So I'm really proud of that. At the end of the day, I think if you treat people well and you're growing them, ultimately, if you can provide an environment of growth, and especially if you're going to scale and there's opportunities for career advancement, life skills, et cetera, I think you can find great talent right now in this time of especially the unemployment benefit situation. But I think in the next 2 to 3 months, you'll start to see these restaurants reopening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, because unemployment runs out at some point.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Supposedly.
You don't mind the government. You want the government to fix the vegetable issue, but you don't. I mean, the government has to just, unfortunately, I guess, stop paying the unemployment thing, or make it more discerning.
Or stop paying so much money on lowering the cost of beef so that you can even it out, and then do whatever. But also, I don't think it's the greatest message to just, if we are vaccinated and if we're essentially safe, quote unquote, to go back out into the world, then the purpose for the unemployment shouldn't exist any longer. Like, that was just for the pandemic.
Right.
It's not so that you can just not work.
Sure. And I think the lobbyists, like the North Carolina Restaurant Association and all the restaurant associations across the country, are now pressing, hey, we need to get back to business, and these benefits are making it challenging to do so from a staffing standpoint. So yeah, to your point, it's only a matter of time. I think what
happens like in 5-10 years after we've like bled all of the unemployment wells dry, that when you actually are unemployed for whatever reason, and they're like, yeah, sorry, you don't qualify because you just spent 18 months on your ass, during pandemic time.
Yeah, I'll leave that to the politicians. I'm just going to take it a day at a time selling salads.
Yeah.
But it should be interesting.
That's a good segue, because there is something else I wanted to ask you about. You are, we started off talking about a pillar of the community, but you are involved in like the Downtown Raleigh Alliance. You've had a lot of collaboration. I think Max, I remember from his Instagram feed, you did this collaboration with Ashley Christensen about a sandwich. And
it was a salad from Poolside Pies.
Salad, right, from Poolside Pies. And so why is that, like, in effect a good position to be in marketing, or is there another thing that you take that stuff to heart?
Yeah, absolutely. I think being in community where you live and where you started the business is critically important. The first one we did was with Beat Amanda.
Yeah.
We worked with the refugee center for them, and typically we let both Van and Ashley pick the charity. So Ashley, we work with Next Door, which is Michael Thor, and his mom Karen, who is a pillar in the restaurant community as well, still is to this day. So there's a charitable component. There's just an excitement from a marketing component, working with some fantastic chefs. And a lot of times these dishes aren't served at lunch, especially too. So there's also an aspect where, as a consumer, I love Beat 'em Out, I love Poolside Pies, but I can't get it for lunch, so let's go to Happy Hale. So there's that piece of it as well.
That's smart.
Yeah.
And that salad, by the way, was delicious.
That sopressata was nice, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we still get emails to this day about both the Poolside salad and the Beatable.
Beatable, yeah.
Yeah.
That was like your best-selling bowl for a long time.
It was, yeah. Especially in the wintertime. Nice coconut curry. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
Did you and Ashley go to school at the same time at NC State?
I think she was a little bit ahead of me.
Okay.
I met her when I was in the champagne business, actually. We were talking about doing a Krug and fried chicken dinner at Beasley's at one point. So got connected through that, yeah.
Everyone's friends with the guy selling the champagne.
Champagne guy, yeah.
Yes, especially the Krug. One thing, back to the business side of things, just for my own curiosity, would Tropical Smoothie Cafe be like a comp for you, like to get there? I don't know how many locations, but they seem ubiquitous at this point.
Yeah, I believe they're franchised. So that's one of those things, again, just the difference in how you grow the businesses, right? So obviously with Tropical Smoothie and other franchises like Clean Juice is another one where they're franchising. You can grow a lot faster. You need less capital. And you just got to make sure your franchisees are going to be running the business properly.
Gotcha.
I would say more so someone like locally Chopped, creative salad company. They're in Cameron Village, and they have a couple around town. They've grown on a corporate scale versus franchise. So I would call them more. Cava's the same way. Chipotle's the same way. Sweet Green in LA and DC and New York is the same way.
Yeah, my wife was just telling me about a podcast with the founder of Chipotle. and he, kind of like you, found a niche and just wanted to make this food in one location. I'm forgetting where it was, and it just kind of blew up. And before you knew it, he had like 5 more stores ready to open.
It's pretty interesting. Yes, Steve L's in Denver.
That's right.
He worked at Stars in San Francisco and he would go down to the Mission District and fell in love with these burritos. Started doing some back of the napkin math and said, you know what, I think we can make a lot of money. Open up the first store in Denver to essentially fund his full service restaurant. It did so well, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And then he had actually a lawyer, their legal counsel. He finally convinced him. He loved the guy so much. His name is Monty Moran. He convinced him to join the company as co-CEO. So they were co-CEOs for decades. And then actually as a team, we just read Monty's book, which is fantastic. Highly recommend it for anyone in the industry. It's called Love is Free, Guac is Extra. Fantastic. And actually was fortunate enough to have a couple conversations with Monty just about leadership more than anything. And that's what the book is essentially about.
Yeah.
Leading with love, vulnerability. And
I love those stories where it's like, oh, we created this side business just to fund this other business, and then the side business is the one that actually takes off.
Yeah.
It's like Shake Shack. Remember when they were doing that? Danny Meyer was like, oh, they were selling hot dogs on the corner,
in 11 Madison
not
Park.
too different than your tricycle out on the corner.
Yeah.
And then it was like, this line is really long, and everyone seems to be digging it. It's like, maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
It's like the Uber guys. If you listen to How I Built This, and the guys that not Uber, I'm sorry, Airbnb guys. Mm-hmm. The way they got the capital for their Airbnb was they're like
sold cereal, right?
Figure out a way to sell cereal. They just bought bulk like Cheerios and rebranded it in a package called Obama O's. Mm-hmm. And it was during his first election, and of course everyone was on the Obama train, so they made a limited amount. They made like, I don't know, 10,000 units or so, but they sold all of them, and it got them their nut that they needed to open up their first, like to open up their website and their business for Airbnb. Yeah. And it's just like, holy crap. Like, they're like, we need to figure out a way to make $150,000. And it's like, yeah, we all need to figure out a way to make $150,000. And they just did it. And then they never went back to the well. They're like, no, now we're funding the real business.
Yeah.
Which, of course, turned out pretty good for them.
It's brilliant.
Pretty damn good. Well, man, Tyler, you are one fascinating dude. And I feel like we could have many episodes with you to talk about what's going on around this, around town, around business. But I'm excited for your openings, especially as somebody who works often in Durham and always thinking about like, where can I get something quick and healthy and you know, sustaining. Well, now I know.
There you go.
Now I remember again. So that's even important for me.
Not even like the fact that you were able to reel off a bunch of businesses that kind of walk in your same area like so quickly makes me feel good for the future about food, is that there are a lot of companies that are kind of looking towards the health component and you know, and kind of being strong with that. And if there's more options like that available, then it becomes more natural and people start working it into their own system. So whether you're succeeding or they're succeeding, it's kind of, you're bringing people into the fold of understanding why food is really important and you should be concerned about the things that you're putting in your body.
Absolutely. Yeah. We say all the time, you eat better, you act better, you act better. You feel better, you act better, you're in the community better, and we're all building it together. We say also, let's root for each other and watch each other grow. So we're all lifting each other up, building each other up, and that's kind of the ethos of the company, not just from a team member perspective, but also from a community perspective. We're really excited about University Hill. Feel like there's a drought, kind of food desert in that neighborhood. Yeah. You have Hope Valley over there, close to Duke, close to Chapel Hill, and most excitingly, 8 years later, after trying to convince me not to open the restaurant, my mom started after a year of breast cancer treatment and finally being vaccinated. She started last week as our chief hospitality officer.
Oh,
and she will be at the University Hill location when we open. She taught me everything I know about hospitality. Full circle.
Nice
That's
job,
really cool.
Mom.
Well, and Max, just because you're a devout Saturday Night Live fan, I'll take you back an old reference, which it makes me think of Father Guido Salducci, who said, if you look good, you feel good.
Well, before you get out of here, talking about South Carolina, as we mentioned it earlier with Greenville, because you know that's where they're located. So
oh, gotcha.
Greenville, South Carolina. Going in just down a little ways to Columbia, South Carolina, we're talking about Proof Alcohol Ice Cream, because it's completely in line with the Happy Hale healthy eating. You know, if you have a good smart lunch, then just do it whatever the hell you want for dinner.
Indulge a little bit.
Indulge a little bit. You can have proof alcohol ice cream. You can think differently about dessert. You can combine a little bit of moonshine with your strawberries, or your bourbon with your caramel, or whatever you like, whatever makes you feel good. We here at the studio, and you, Tyler, will go home with a nice pint of proof alcohol ice cream. There's 7% alcohol in every pint, and many different flavors to choose from, but get them wherever you see that red branded freezer, whether it be Triangle Wine Company or Lowe's or Harris Teeter, Total Wine. I mean, they're everywhere now. So kudos to them. And Tyler, thank you for being on the show. Matt, you got anything else?
Yeah, Tyler, thank you very much. I will say, seriously, if you're around Saturday and need something to do, I'm going to be pouring some delicious wines at the Triangle Wine Company Morrisville location. They have a cool patio in the back and just a great place to hang and chill and get to know me on a personal level. But Tyler, seriously, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing what you do to the community. If you're out there and you are hungry, go to a Happy Hale and you will eat and drink very merrily.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.